a new human consciousness emerging throughout our species, and it's emerging in us. We are beginning to become aware of some of the processes of non-physical reality. People studied communication beyond the veil. There's not a veil anymore. We are all beginning to develop the ability to communicate with non-physical entities. This is the big transformation that Linda and I have been talking about, well, for 40 years. There's no way that we can change the world without changing ourselves. Everything that our president is doing is out of a playbook by an individual named Adolf Hitler. We are in the brown shirt phase of the Nazi evolution. To create the new power, it's necessary to recognize fear and love in yourself. The universe is alive and wise and compassionate, and every experience that we have in the Earth School serves a purpose. And that purpose is, I was the one that first met our non-physical teacher. And so I put everything that Genesis taught me into a book. The content belongs to Genesis. The book was called We Are Experiencing an Epic Transformation of Human Consciousness, species-wide. Now, there have been transformations of human consciousness. The last one required about 300,000 years to evolve. That's the old consciousness. This one is arriving within 3 human generations, and 2 of them are already here. That's millennials and Gen Z. So we are in the midst of this without precedent transformation in human consciousness. What is, now in the new consciousness, there are aspects that you can recognize in the old consciousness, but never has the entire human family at once undergone a transformation this profound, extensive, relevant, and deep within 3 human generations. So as you look about us, I'm speaking to you from the United States, where politically everything is in turmoil. There's a great deal of persecution of a target audience. In Nazi Germany, it was the Jews. In the United States, it is Hispanics. And everything that our president is doing really is out of a playbook, if there were such a thing, that has been used in the past, most recently by an individual named Adolf Hitler in Germany. And there is a philosopher, George Santayana, that has said famously, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And that's what's happening to us in the United States. The German people between World War I and World War II were humiliated. They lost the First World War. Their economy was a wreck. And this man was elected. He didn't take over as a dictator. He was elected democratically, and he became the head of Germany. His party was the Nazi Party. And he said, essentially, "We have been humiliated. I am going to make Germany great again." That may sound familiar to you because in the United States, the theme is "Make America Great Again." That's what Adolf Hitler said. And he did it by pursuing the old consciousness, the old understanding of power, which is manipulation and control. He targeted an audience to persecute the Jews, and they were presented as vermin, filthy rodents running through sewers, squealing, that needed to be exterminated completely. And he set about doing that, and he called it the final solution. In this country, the target audience are Hispanics. There are quite a few Hispanics in the United States. And our president is saying they are a rapist and terrorist. That's nonsense. It's completely absurd. Anyone who's been to Mexico knows that. It's a huge country, so it's got gangs like we do in the United States. But it is a beautiful country with beautiful people. But nonetheless, this is happening. And so it looks as though everything is not working, but everything is working right, Amrit. And you can calibrate this to anything that may be happening in Australia or in Asia that you know of. But let me return to your question. What is the new consciousness, and how is it different from the old? The old consciousness is limited by the five senses. Whatever cannot be seen or tasted or heard or smelled or detected in some way by one of the five senses or more is considered to be imaginary, uh, delusion, or illusion. That is not a part of the new consciousness. The new consciousness is not limited to the five senses. And that means we are beginning to become aware of some of the processes of non-physical reality. I'll give you an example that's very large in my life. My beloved Linda Francis and I were together for 27 years, and then she had a stroke 3 years ago, and her personality, her body died. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, it's gone. I don't even try to think of it. I love looking at pictures of her incarnation. She's so beautiful. She's so exquisite and playful and joyful and brilliant. But that incarnation is gone. However, the energy that animated it is still here. It still loves me, and I still love it. Now, from the perspective of the old consciousness, this would seem completely bizarre, New Age poof. It was the stuff that in the late 1890s, Madame Blavatsky and the people studied communication beyond the veil. They used that kind of language. There's not a veil anymore. We are all beginning to experience ourselves as more than bodies and minds. We are all beginning to develop the ability to communicate with non-physical entities as easily as we can communicate with one another. And this facile communication is becoming the defining characteristic of the human species. This is the big transformation that Linda and I have been talking about, well, for 40 years. The understanding of power from the perspective of the old consciousness was manipulation and control. That no longer serves our evolution and, in fact, is counterproductive to our evolution. It produces only violence and destruction. The new understanding of power is a potential. The new consciousness is a gift. It's emerging in billions of people. The new understanding of power is a potential that needs to be created, and that is authentic power. It's in stark contrast to external power, manipulation and control. Authentic power is the alignment of your personality with your soul, and the intentions of your soul are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And everything that Linda and I teach in all of our books and events and courses have to do with authentic power, what it is, how to create it, how to recognize it. You can't recognize it. You have to create it, choice by choice, decision by decision. And it has three basic tools, easy to understand: emotional awareness, responsible choice, consulting intuition. So all of these things, and I'll go into any of this as much as you like, but that's an overview. That's a skeletal structure. Now, from my position in reality, this transformation in human consciousness is half accomplished. That means of the 8 or 8.2 billion humans on the planet, that would mean that around 4 billion of them have the new consciousness. They may not recognize it. We help them recognize it and how to use it, how to shape it, or let it shape them. And the other 4 billion people are still in the old consciousness. Now that brings me back to what's happening in the United States, and I feel everywhere around the world where there is an insensitive, brutal, politically it would be called conservative, like in in Brazil, it's Bolsonaro's, it's wherever there is a dictator, that is the old consciousness. And in our country, it's Donald Trump. So he is pursuing external power. It is producing violence and destruction everywhere. But that is to be expected. That is what happens when half the world has the new consciousness and half has the old consciousness. We can't speed up the process for those who are still five sensory. The new consciousness will emerge in them. But we can use the new consciousness in ourselves when we recognize it. And everyone who is listening to Inspired Evolution, which the name of your podcast alone is a magnet for the new consciousness, because that is inspired evolution. So now I'll tell you what I'm seeing from my position in reality is that the question arises, what shall we do now? Now, if we have the old consciousness, the answer is simple, more of the same. Donald Trump is doing what needs to be done. He's cleaning up the government. He's streamlining it. He's getting rid of the waste. And so the answer is more of the same. But from the perspective of the new consciousness, the answer is not so simple. Because in the old consciousness, there is this unbridgeable barrier between in here and out there. And that barrier is not a part of the new consciousness. So there's no way that we can change the world without changing ourselves. From the perspective of the old consciousness, that's ludicrous. You cannot change the world by changing yourself because nothing you do inside is going to affect the world outside. It's the world outside that affects your consciousness. From the perspective of the new consciousness, it's the reverse. Your consciousness affects the world. Not only affects it, there's no separation between you and the world. And that's just the beginning. We know that the world that we've inherited is a world that was built with the old consciousness, manipulation and control. And so we also know that there's no way to change a world that's built on external power with more external power. That just adds more to it of what it's already made of. So the idea that we can change the world by creating a new political party, getting more money, more votes, that will not change the world. It can change an administration, but it will not change the world. And we also know, because we have the new consciousness, that when we lash out in righteousness and anger and frustration against the darkness, we ourselves enter the darkness. So now we ask ourselves, what can we do about Donald Trump? And the dynamic of our evolution, the sheer structure of it, requires one answer only: love him. To change the world built on external power requires something different. It requires authentic power. The intentions of your soul are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. If we're going to bring that to the world, the only thing that we can do about Donald Trump and the people that he's drawn to him because of the law of attraction, energy attracts like energy, is to love them. There are precedents for this. Gandhi knew that. Gandhi was able to remove the most brutal, enormous colonial army empire at that time, the British Empire. And he never made the British an enemy. It was British policy that Gandhi sought to change and did change. And he said in a gentle way, we can shake the world. There was nothing gentle about Gandhi's life. He was beaten several times, imprisoned several times. But toward the end of the struggle, when it looked as though Indian independence was going to happen, the Viceroy brought, on instructions from London, brought Gandhi to his mansion from a British prison, directly from a British prison. And Gandhi arrived in dusty prison clothing. And when he entered the palace, he said, Your Excellency, I know I have done things that have been irritants to you, but I hope that will not stand between us as men. That's my hero. That was Mohandas Gandhi. Martin Luther King, who was influenced by Gandhi strongly, knew the same thing. I remember an interview that a white reporter was having with Martin when he was in a jail cell deep in the South. And this reporter was trying to get Martin to say something negative about white people, and he couldn't do it. And I don't believe that Martin had anything negative to say. Martin knew also that the only way to change a world built on external power, on bitterness, hatred, jealousy, is with love. And he did. And Nelson Mandela knew this. When he was finally released from Robbins Island, or the other prisons he was in for 27 years, to use the words of our friend Maya Angelou, he sprang out of it like a young lion. And he could have entered a South Africa of bloodshed unlike any seen since the American Civil War. But instead, he guided it toward truth and reconciliation, and the two always go together. And the precedent goes even deeper than that. Jesus knew this. In one of his most famous talks in history and in Christian scripture and literature was when he was on a mountain, and it's called the Sermon on the Mountain. And he said, love your neighbor. That's where that famous quote came from. Love your neighbor. Well, he delivered that talk to a 5th-century humankind with the old consciousness. And so he said it the best way he could. It was a rephrase of what Moses said, also to 5th-century culture, to a 5th-century culture, the 10 Commandments. And he didn't try to soften it. He said, these aren't requests, these aren't suggestions, these are commandments. Do this or pay the consequences. And you don't want to face my God. He's tough and he's merciless. So don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't 10 times. Now, Jesus softened that quite a bit. He said, instead, not do this or don't do this and don't do that. He said, do to your neighbor what you want your neighbor to do to you. And he suggested love your neighbor. How much? A lot. How much is a lot? Enough to die for your neighbor. Whoa, that's a big ask. I don't personally know any Christians who can do that. That doesn't mean that there aren't any. It just simply means I don't know any. They hold love as a goal, as something to aspire toward. But I don't think any of them are. Well, we still have Christians that murder abortion providers because those abortion providers violate their idea of love and honor and life. It's a bit beyond my comprehension, but it's what's happening. So here we have us with a new consciousness, half the world, with people like Donald Trump. And we're not blaming him, we're not criticizing him. He's giving it his best. It's just that his best isn't the way we see the word best. It's the way he sees it. He sees it, don't mess with me. If you hit me, I hit you back harder. And that's the way he operates. But he's giving it his best. Gandhi was beaten several times, and one time I remember in particular, he as far as I know, he never pressed charges against his attacker because he said his attacker was doing what he thought was right. So here we are, with the world half in the old consciousness and half in the new. And what shall we do when we see the part in the old consciousness, when we see our neighbor admiring a dictator, when we see a president slowly, and not slowly anymore, striving to turn the United States into a police state? What shall we do? Love him. That's all we can do if we're going to evolve. Now, that's a big if. If we're going to evolve, we don't need to evolve. We can do anything we want. We can lash back in anger, in jealousy, and resentment. We can form militias. He is already forming one. Hitler formed one, a paramilitary organization, and they all wore brown uniforms. They were called brown shirts. And they roamed the streets. They would grab people off the streets, throw them into cars, and drive them away, and they'd not be seen again. This happens in Portland, Oregon, not too long ago. We are in the brown shirt phase of the Nazi evolution. And the question for all of us is, what shall we do? And if we plan to evolve, the answer is the same for all of us. Love him. So Christ softened Moses' commandments by saying, it's not don't, but do love your neighbor. Well, now we are a multisensory species. We're becoming one. And so we can modify that, the golden rule, a bit more to fit the time. I would suggest it would be this. Intend toward your neighbor what you want your neighbor to intend toward you. Because there are only two intentions in the Earth School. Fundamental intentions, love and fear. And if you're not experiencing love, you're in fear. And if you're in fear, you're not experiencing love. Those are our choices, moment by moment. And that's what Linda and I are sharing. This is the creation of authentic power, the ability to recognize fear in yourself. And by that I mean jealousy, depression, anxiety, overwhelm, superiority, inferiority, and to also recognize loving parts of yourself, which we experience as gratitude and appreciation and caring and patience, contentment, and awe of the universe. And then being able to distinguish within yourself between love and fear and choose love no matter what's going on inside of you or what's going on outside of you. So that's the overview, Amrit, that you asked for about authentic power and external power, about the shift in consciousness from the old consciousness limited to the five senses and experiencing power as manipulation and control, to the new consciousness and the new understanding of power, which is a potential, not a gift. We have to create it. And the only way you can create authentic power, by the way, authentic power is love. There's no greater power. And the only way you can create authentic power is to find within yourself and to become intimately aware within yourself of every part of your personality that doesn't love and doesn't intend to. And those are the frightened parts. And they are painful to experience. They're magnetically attractive. They're forceful. They demand expression. And when you act on them, they create painful consequences for yourself. To create love is to find those parts that do not love and challenge them. That doesn't mean have a war with them. It means experience them intimately. And then while you are, choose not to be controlled by them, to move beyond the control of them. That's the creation of authentic power. That's our future, if we choose it. And if we don't change. We continue to live the life that we're living. Donald Trump and all, except it's not out there that's in Donald. This great transformation is happening inside. It's happening inside each of us.
Hey there, inspired souls. We just hit 300,000 subscribers. Touch wood. I've got to say something. I don't know what to say. Obviously, gratitude beaming out of it. Touch wood. Thank you guys so much for your incredible love and support at this juncture to celebrate reaching 300,000 subscribers. We're giving away a month's worth of access to the community. Come join us on the inside. This month's guest is Richard Rudd from the Gene Keys. You can ask him anything you want. We do weekly Q&A. There's so much goodness inside the community. You can get access to the community for $1. Just come join us inside the community, have some fun, meet us on the inside. And by joining the community this month, that's how you go into the draw. We're giving away heaps of stuff. We're going to give away a deep dive mentoring session. We're giving away astrology readings. We're giving away, there's one lucky winner will win an annual subscription to the community for free on us. Like, come on in. And also, as some of you started to hear, we're doing these inspired evolution experiences now, retreats to Egypt, to Hawaii, Colorado, hopefully England. We want to go to Stonehenge, some really cool places that we want to get to, Touchwood. And so, yeah, if one lucky winner will win $200 off on an inspired evolution experience as well. So much goodness. Like, I'm going to put a link in the caption around here somewhere it's our way of saying thank you so much for your support. Join us on the inside of the community. Come hang out for a minute as well. Go into the draw to win all of these incredible prizes. I probably haven't mentioned all of them, so check the link and all that sort of stuff in the caption, and I'm sure you'll find out more about it. And all you have to do to enter is join the community for the month for $1. That's all you have to do. So come join us on the inside. I'd love to say good day and see you there, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I feel like I've got a healthy sense of cognitive dissonance to it. Like 300 out. Like, what is actually going on? Guys, thank you so much for your love and support. See you on the inside in the community. To intend towards our neighbor, well, we intend our neighbor.
What we would like our neighbor to intend toward us.
It's incredibly rich, Gary. Yeah, we'll continue to meditate on that one. There's I can feel, and this was a question I had even coming into today's podcast, is these global control structures do seem to be intensifying. And and I can imagine someone listening at this point wants to ask this question as well, and it's pertinent. You're suggesting that holding it in love, I guess the question really is love whilst not condoning. You use Gandhi as an example, then maybe that's a really good frame to step into in this question is, how do we love something that feels so at odds with the new world that we're looking to witness, to breathe into, to create, to be a part of? And yet and we need some help here because there's an invitation to love it, but it's so difficult to condone it. But I imagine, can you help us unravel that piece? Yeah, the loving without condoning, or do you have to condone that? Yeah, how does this work?
Of course I'll clarify that. That's what we're here to discuss, is creating authentic power in the new human consciousness. The old consciousness looks at power as the ability to manipulate and to control. This used to be our medicine. We were a 5th-century species that evolved by surviving, and we survived by pursuing external power. It was our medicine, our good medicine. Now it's our poison. It's toxic. We have become and are becoming a multi-sensory species that evolves by growing spiritually, and that grows spiritually by creating authentic power, the alignment of your personality with your soul. Do you have a soul? You can check for yourself. Ask yourself, am I more than a body and a mind? Anyone who's listening to this podcast, Amrit is going to say, yes, I am. I'm more. But if you ask someone who's who's in the old consciousness, are you more than a body and a mind? He'll look at you and say, what else is there? That's the difference. It can't be judged. If you judge, you create negative karma for yourself. I'm not Christian, but this also goes back to this great sage, Christ, who said, if you judge, you'll be judged. That's karma. So the question is now, what can we do? Well, if you go on a street corner with a little portable amplifier and a mic and you say, love Donald Trump, it's our only way out, you are not pursuing external power. You are pursuing the old power, manipulation and control. If you have the money and you can rent 2,000 billboards along the major freeways in the United States saying, choose love, that's not going to help. That's the pursuit of external power. You're trying to manipulate and control. You're trying to make the world different than it is so that you'll feel better about yourself. To create the new power, it's necessary to recognize fear and love in yourself. So from the old consciousness, if a person is angry, they just say, I'm angry. I used to be like that. When I was in my 20s, I tell people, I'm angry. Yeah, I'm angry. I was born angry. I'm going to die angry. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And I didn't realize what I was doing to myself. I was pushing people away with my anger. They wouldn't be intimate. They didn't want to be close with me. And I was lonely. And the lonelier I got, the angrier I got. So now, with the new consciousness, if we're experiencing any of the experiences of fear, jealousy, resentment, competitiveness, overwhelm, we can recognize that as the experience of a part of our personality, one part. And our personality has many different parts. The new consciousness allows us to do that. And as we recognize anger, for example, as the experience of a frightened part of our personality, I'll put it in first person or second. As you recognize anger, not as anger coming from you, but as coming from this part of your personality, then you put an arm's length of distance between you and that part of your personality. And you don't have to believe it, much less act on it. And in fact, you have the ability not to act on it consciously. So when you are in a frightened part of your personality, you can always tell it by putting your attention not in the world. That's the first thing that five sensory humans do when they're unhappy or angry or jealous. They look at the world because they think the world is causing these experiences. It's not the world. It's internal dynamics in themselves. So they look inward instead of outward at these internal dynamics. And these are what we've been calling frightened and loving parts of your personality. And when you change them, now you're changing yourself. Now you're gaining traction. So you can put your attention in your energy processing centers. In the East, these are called chakras. Let's look at three of them because for me, these are the easiest to experience. Say my chest, my throat area, and my solar plexus. So if I think I'm in a frightened part of my personality, I'll put my attention into my chest area and I'll look for physical sensations, not sensations that you give poetic labels to like joyful, happy, bubbly, down, up. No, that helps nothing. Physical sensations like aching, throbbing, churning, stinging, stabbing, hot, cold, contracting, expanding. And you do the same with your solar plexus and your throat area. For example, if You develop the ability, when you develop the ability to know what's happening inside of you in this way, you'll be able to say, I'll just make this up. I have a stabbing in the upper right part of my chest, and I feel a band contracting across the entire width of my chest. And in my throat, I feel a contraction that's about the size of a ping pong ball or a golf ball. It's hard. It's in the middle of my throat, about midway up, and it hurts. And I feel a burning and a churning in my solar plexus area. When you can describe what you're feeling this way, you are emotionally literate. That is emotional awareness. And when you can't, you're emotionally illiterate. And now and then you can find a few people who say, I don't feel anything, and mean it. They are emotionally ignorant. So emotional awareness is a tool of creating authentic power, and you can develop it. We have a book, in fact, called The Heart of the Soul, Emotional Awareness, that Linda and I created. I suggest that you read that book. We also have a course, so you can take your pick. You can take a course, you can read the book. I narrated it so you can listen to it. I wrote the text in The Heart of the Soul, and I like writing. I asked Linda if she would create exercises for each of the things that I was writing about, and she did. So we put the exercises in squares that are sort of shaded gray, and I discovered after the book was published that I need to say, when you buy the book, go from exercise to exercise and do the exercise. If you just read the material that I wrote between the exercises, by the end of the book, you'll know a lot about about emotional awareness, but you won't be emotionally aware. And that's not going to help you. You don't have to have an intellect to grow spiritually. It's not necessary at all. So read the book, take the course, do both, but most importantly, use your attention to focus on your energy processing centers and find the physical sensations there. If they're painful, you're in fear. That's good to know, because if you act on fear, you'll create painful consequences for yourself, like I did when I acted in anger. And if you're in love, it'll be the opposite. You'll feel pleasant, good-feeling physical sensations, the kind you want to have more of. And if you act on them, if you act with the intention of love, you'll create constructive, healthy consequences for yourself. And that's how you create your life consciously. In other words, we're talking about becoming a master in your life. You're not blown about by the winds anymore. You decide what experiences you're going to create for yourself by choosing the intention. And by the way, an intention is not a goal. Like some people think my intention is to become a poet or a welder or to have a family or to move to Italy and learn Italian. Those are goals. You might say they're out-tensions. An intention is a quality of consciousness. And in the Earth School, there's only two. The most fundamental, bedrock, can't get any deeper intentions are love and fear. The opposite of love is not hatred, it's fear. And when you're in love, you can't experience fear. You can't even remember what it feels like. And when you're in fear, you can't love. So every choice point that you encounter in your life is between those two qualities of consciousness. And when you act or speak with love, you infuse what you say and what you do with that quality of consciousness. And that's what creates the consequences. That's why it's the intention that creates consequences, not the action. You can do the same action, say the same words with an intention of fear, and it creates painful, destructive consequences for you. But with an intention of love, it creates the opposite. These are the things that we can recognize now with the new consciousness and begin to use and use to shape our lives. Isn't that exciting?
It's fascinating. Hey there, Inspired Souls. Spirituality is not something we just talk about here at the Inspired Evolution. It's something we live and breathe with our entire beings. Whether it's in your career, your life, the way you lead in the world, or your relationships, it's at the heart of the way we believe life should be lived. And so if you're feeling out of alignment, or you can feel that there's something more, or you're feeling like you're not thriving in life, touch wood, the way that you ought to be, then we've got guidance to take you even deeper. You've got support from me one-on-one, and you've also got a like-minded, like-hearted community masterminding, master-hearting together through guidance together. And you don't have to take my word for it. This is how people all over the world have transformed through guidance.
Everything just kind of fell into place, and now I'm on a path that I actually believe in and I'm excited about, because I feel like I'm becoming my best self.
Over those 2 years, I have done so much. I can't believe where I am now. I'm thrilled where I am now. Not only was he a coach, but he became a divine presence in my life.
You can show up to Amrit with all sorts of chaos in your life, and you leave feeling completely centered with some direction that is going to get you results. It's just magic. When you're in coaching with Amrit, you just flow with it all.
I feel that I have access and connection to somebody who is deeply entrenched in my development.
If you're thinking about it, just do it. You won't regret it.
So what are you waiting for? If you feel the call, then join me on a call. amritsandhu.com/call. Link on screen now, and also at the top of the description in the show notes below. Join me in a call. Let's dive in deep to your path, onwards, upwards, and inwards from here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a call. Go on, I'll see you there. We're at this juncture in the conversation where it becomes really present for me that we can, because I think many people feel this rub, and I've been asked this question recently a lot of myself, and I'd love to forward it on to yourself, which is when you see, let's just continue with the example that we have of certain people in power like Trump. Let's say you see someone like this in power, the invitation in this conversation at this point is actually it's an internal game, or it's an internal situation for oneself. And people often ask the question, do we place our attention and intention to what's coming next to energize that? Or do we have a look at what's not working and then we energize that? And in this particular conversation, I can't help but feel like at this juncture that some part of what's going out there with all the fear structures associated to many other things, but then also this is just a low-hanging fruit in this particular example that we're using as Trump. But it's not to, I guess just a little bit further clarification, it's to be okay with looking at it and then holding it with love, because that is, again, potentially a frightened part of our personality, as you would like to put it. Like that's a fear structure, and then learning to love that as opposed to just avoiding it and just focusing on where there's naturally more love. Do you see the two sort of pathways that generally open up between people there?
Yeah, but it's not quite that simple.
Yeah,
because
please.
When you experience a frightened part of your personality, it's not, oh, here's a this and here's a that. I think I'll take the that instead of the this. The frightened part of your personality is demanding. It's painful. It requires action. When you're angry, you don't think, I think I'll get angry now. You're just feeling angry.
It's
But
visceral.
because you have the new consciousness, you can recognize that powerful experience of anger, of wanting to lash out, make someone wrong, change the world, set it straight, get it right. All of that is very difficult to resist. Every frightened part of your personality is magnetically attractive, powerfully attractive. It demands expression. And it's so satisfying to say, you don't know anything. Haven't you ever gone to school? Haven't you ever exercised your brain, et cetera, et cetera? All of these are kind of things that a frightened part of your personality would say, more or less politely, usually less politely, almost always less politely. Every frightened part of your personality is an attempt to manipulate the world, to change it so that it will feel better about itself. In other words, every frightened part of the personality pursues external power, and it produces painful and destructive consequences for you. The other option is love. That feels good. You have to choose love. You can't unconsciously choose to be gracious or generous or kind or content or loving or caring. You need to consciously choose it. If you don't know what your intention is when you act or speak, it's fear. Every unconscious intention is an intention of fear, and every unconscious intention of fear produces painful consequences. And this is the suffering that fills every life. The Buddhists call it the wheel of suffering, of samsara. But now we have a new consciousness, Amrit. This is the good news that we've been talking about for 40 minutes, and we can talk about it for ages, because this is the new, you called it a game. It's not a game. It's reality. And I've said that a new consciousness is emerging throughout our species. Where is it emerging? It's emerging in you. This is a very personal decision. When you say, and I've been calling Donald Trump by his last name, I don't mean not to respect him. So I won't do that anymore. He's Donald Trump. He's a soul in the Earth School like we are. He's not aware. He's got the old consciousness. He's creating destructively, which means unconsciously. But every experience that we have in the Earth School serves a purpose, and that purpose is spiritual growth. And you can see how this polarization in the United States and elsewhere is at a zenith. It can't be ignored. For example, the intentions of the soul are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And our president is promoting competition, hoarding.
Yeah, tariffs. Yeah.
Well, tariffs up. Instead of harmony, is promoting discord.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of cooperation, he's promoting competition. Instead of sharing, he's promoting hoarding. Instead of reverence, he's promoting exploitation. The characteristics of an authentically powerful personality are humbleness, clarity, forgiveness, and love. But Donald Trump, our fellow soul, is not humble. He's vain. He's unclear about what benefits him and what benefits life. He's confused about the two. He feels that what benefits him benefits all. He's not forgiving. He's unforgiving. He's vengeful. Humbleness, forgiveness, clarity, and love. He's not loving. He's vengeful. And so the contrast is so stark, it can't be ignored. This means, from my perspective, this is a great learning opportunity for us. Never before has the entire human species been confronted with the same circumstance at the same time, with the exception of COVID. But we didn't learn what we could have learned from that. We said things like, we're all in it together, but we came out of it all for each other, all for ourselves. Now we have another. And it's not an opportunity, it's a requirement. We will choose. We will choose love or we will choose fear. And we will experience the consequences. We are more than choosers. We do not have choice. We are choice. We cannot not choose. In other words, put it this way. You are a soul. You are an incarnation of a powerful and creative, compassionate and loving spirit. You are in motion. Your life in the Earth School is the motion. It will take you where you need to go. You do not need to worry about what you bring into your life. It will do that. You are responsible for your choices. And your choices are always the same: love or fear. If you choose fear, are you punished? No. Do you go to hell? No. Those are different ways of saying the same thing. You simply don't change. If you like the life that you're in, if you like the competition, the anxiety, the depression, the overwhelm, the judgment that you feel for others and that others feel for you, continue doing what you're doing. And you'll continue to have those experiences because all of your deeds and all of your words will be infused with fear. If you want to change, that's within your capability now. You can do that. You can recognize the difference between love and fear. And when you do, set the intention to act with love while you're experiencing the frightened parts of your personality. That's the moment of creating authentic power. That's where the rubber meets the road. Or not. And if it doesn't, you don't change. In other words, the universe doesn't think in terms of right or wrong, good or bad. If it thinks, you might say in any terms, it thinks in terms of cause and effect. And if you participate in a cause, you will participate in the effect. Every choice of intention is a cause, and the consequences are the effect. Every experience you have in the Earth School serves your spiritual growth. And it is perfect for your spiritual growth. That's called karma. In the East, karma means, what does karma mean? Karma refers to an impersonal, universal energy dynamic. It is a message delivery system. When you act or speak from an intention of fear or love, you create experiences in the person that you're interacting with. And if you act from fear, that creates certain experiences that are painful in that person. And those experiences are what you yourself will experience. In other words, when you act from fear or you act from love toward another person, it's as though you are addressing an envelope. You are putting in it a message, and you are writing on the envelope, "Return to sender," and it will come back. With laser-like precision, even if you move, it will reach you. Even if you die, it will reach you. Wherever you go, it will reach you. It is the Earth School at work, offering you every opportunity in every way to choose love instead of fear. Recognize the difference and use your new consciousness to shape your life in a new way, in a way that is giving and sharing and appreciative rather than jealous, competitive, and dissatisfied. There's no right and there's no wrong in this. If you inject a right or a wrong, then you are judging and you yourself will be judged. Isn't the Earth School exquisite?
There's a question that's present for me here is what I'm hearing is like almost all of it is designed for our spiritual refinement. There's going to be someone tuning in that wants to know why we default to fear and not default to love.
That's
Is
a
that
choice. That's a choice. And I say to your reader, your listener, call it a default. Call it a preference. Call it the devil made me do it. Put whatever word you want on it. The dynamic remains the same. When you act in fear, you create the consequences of fear for yourself. It's not a default.
Well, you
When
did
you have
say,
the new consciousness, you have a choice.
because
Oh, I'm
earlier,
sorry.
oh, sorry. It's because earlier, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but, oh, no, actually, I did, sorry. But earlier in the podcast, you mentioned that if we don't make a conscious choice, then naturally the unconscious choices are run and programmed by fear, if we're making an unconscious choice.
Yes. If you're not aware of your intention when you act or speak, your intention is one of fear.
And so that makes it sound like that the default is fear,
Whose default?
the collective default.
No. No. Dear Amrit, we are talking about you. We are talking about me. We are not talking about collective dynamics. Evolution is a very personal, very intimate experience. It requires commitment, courage, compassion, and conscious communication and action. You cannot sit back and fall into authentic power or stumble onto it. You need to create it, moment by moment, choice by choice. And if you don't, you're not judged. It's not a commandment. As we acquire the new consciousness, we can begin to see how the Earth School works. And then we have our perceptions and our capabilities both expand. And if your listener says, well, why is my default always fear? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself if you want to continue creating the experiences that you're encountering, or if you'd like to create some that are more satisfying, more fulfilling, more enriching, more connected. And if so, it's up to you to do something about it because no one else is going to. No one else cares. Evolution happens in you, and it's happening right now.
It's a huge piece of responsibility.
It is not a piece of responsibility. It is responsibility. Our new consciousness is taking us in an entirely new direction. Our creative capacity is now unlimited, and our responsibility for what we create is total.
You mentioned that we're seeing what would have taken 300 years now evolving in just 3 generations.
300,000.
300,000
300.
with 3 generations. Where do you kind of see us within this 3-generational shift? Are we about midway through, or we just started?
Yes. Yes, we are. That's what we're talking about. About half of us have the old consciousness and half have the new. So now what are we going to do? What are you going to do when your neighbor wants to put you in prison because you're saying something objectionable to the governor? What are you going to do? You're going to buy a gun? I've done that. You're going to learn how to use it? I've done that. You're going to join the military and get training? I've done that too. I can tell you where it's going to lead you. It's going to lead you to the same place that our species has arrived at for hundreds of thousands of years as it's pursued external power through empires, through armies, through Babylonia, through Alexander the Great, through Rome, through England. Empire upon empire. None of those empires exist now. They're all gone. And any more that we bring into existence has no future either.
There's a theme underlying this podcast, which is to trust that the universe is guiding us. And I also watched in one of your recent podcasts, which, for those that don't know, Gary has a podcast and you should totally be listening to it. It's really centering. It's really helpful. There's
I tell people about your podcast on my podcast. Why not share support and clarity and inspiration where we encounter it? From a 6-year-old or a grandparent.
Mm. There's a theme that you thank you so much. There's a theme you unpacked recently, which is trust is an active decision that we must make, and I can really feel at this particular juncture in this
Not
conversation.
that you, not that you must make.
Mm.
Not that you must make.
Please.
What are you going to trust? What is your belief system? You have a choice, I would suggest that when you look at a belief system, that you experiment with one that does not contain fear. And the one that I'm suggesting to you doesn't contain any fear. It is that the universe is alive and wise and compassionate, and that everything in it serves your spiritual development. But you must not or must choose anything. That is the choice itself. That is the choice itself. Most people think, for example, that there's a path waiting for them. And if they find that path and they get on that path and follow that path, it'll take them where they need to go and want to go. That path doesn't exist. It's not there waiting for you. You create it. And when you hear something that you resonate with, are you going to believe it or not? Well, you can consult ChatGPT. You can do it the old-fashioned way and Google it. You can ask your grandmother. But the one that counts is what you feel about it. Are you going to trust what you hear or not? And that doesn't mean, does it make sense? In my experience, after a while, it doesn't make sense at all. And yet, it's the very essence of who we are. And in it is beyond description, beyond words. For example, the universe exists inside you, and there's no outside. Now, the first time someone sees that, if you're like me, you don't tell anybody because it's too embarrassing. Because it sounds like it's solipsistic, it's narcissistic, it's unhinged. But I saw it. It's real. I'm a unique expression of the universe, and so are you. So I started to look around to sort of, not sort of, but to reinforce my position, I said. So I talked to a friend who's been a Christian clergyman for 70 years. He's 96 now. And I asked him, is there anything in Christian literature or theology that indicates that the universe is inside me? And he looked at me like I'm missing a marble. And he said, the kingdom of heaven is within. Oh, how many times have I heard those words? And they went right past me. I didn't hear them. There it is. The kingdom of heaven is within. It's not up there, down there, around you. You can't find it behind that camel or behind that Lamborghini. It's inside. Well, that was a start. I thought, well, I wonder if there's any more. Linda and I were adopted into Lakota culture maybe 20 years ago. And Lakota culture says that the center of the universe is everywhere. Oh, I thought, my goodness, I think this is related. I think there's something common here. And then I heard, this is hearsay, from Buddhist lore, that when Siddhartha became the Buddha, he woke up, he saw things, he became things that he wasn't before. To say that he saw them isn't quite right. He became them. And it is said that he saw worlds as numerous as dust motes. You know what a dust mote is? Like when a shaft of sunlight coming in a room.
Oh, yeah.
You see those millions,
Sparkly,
gazillions of little
sparkly,
particles
little
been dancing
twinkly.
up and down.
It's beautiful.
The Buddha saw worlds as numerous as dust motes. Well, how many dust motes are there in one shaft of sunlight? How many shafts of sunlight are there in the universe? That's how many worlds the Buddha saw, each of them with a Buddha and a path to enlightenment. Oh my gosh, and I thought, I think this is related. I know that the universe is inside me, not outside. And now I'm seeing these things I'm remembering from the past when I read them, when someone told me. But the thing is, am I going to turn my back on what I know? Or am I going to trust my intuition, not my intuition, but my intellect that says, that's you've lost, you've got a couple of wires that have come undone. No, I'm not. I'm more sane than I ever have been. I'm more connected than I ever have been. But connected to what? We are accustomed to looking at things in terms of parts and thinking about them in terms of the relationships between them. But there are no such things, and there never have been. There is one, and all is that. Your mind will never validate that. It can't. But there's something in you that validates as you move through your life. And whatever that is, and you choose it based on your meaning, you create consequences for yourself. And that's the Earth School. And it's giving us a glimpse now of what we are, not proverbial children of the universe, mindless, immature, incompetent, incapable of standing on our own, doing on our own, being responsible. All of that is gone now. We are becoming universal humans, adult citizens of the universe, whose allegiance is to life first and everything else second. This is where our consciousness is taking us. Each of us at our own pace and in ways that are meaningful and relevant to us. But here we are with a new human consciousness emerging throughout our species, and it's emerging in us, in you, in me.
Yeah, Gary, we had this really incredible experience when you came into the Inspired Evolution Community Circle, and yeah, you did some Q&A with the audience members, and it left such a profound impact on all of us. We're still talking about it even till this day, even though it was a few months ago. And yeah, there was the felt sense of what the questions themselves and the responses were to it, but consistently the reflection has been actually it was the grace with which the questions were responded to. There was a palpable felt sense in the space in the community that everybody continues to remark upon today. So thank you for that. I know you're actually putting together an event at the Tabernacle in London. Can I ask you a little bit about that? What the live event's going to be like?
Yes, of course. I'm not putting it together. It's being put together for me. I'm going to London to be part of a little UN program called Conscious Food System Alliance. And it addresses the reality that there is very little awareness in the food system, which is this enormous corporate interlocking structure that brings food from the farmer, wherever that is, to a table, wherever that is, and it has no wisdom or compassion in it. It's all corporate. And so this is a tiny, tiny impulse in this huge organization called the United Nations to address that. And so I went to one of their small gatherings in upstate New York by Zoom, and now I'm going to London to be at one in person. And now I've discovered that the King of Bhutan has authorized, through a spokesman a couple of months ago, to say that Bhutan will host the first international summit of the Conscious Food System Alliance in Bhutan in 2026. So that's why I'm going to London. I'm going to be an in-person gathering, small gathering of this small organization within this huge behemoth called the United Nations. And while I'm there, I have been introduced to some people there, and they're creating events. The first one is going to be a charity event for first responders. I'm really looking forward to that, very much so. And then the next one, a promoter said, well, I'll promote an event for you, and we'll put it in this little place called the Tabernacle. It's small, maybe 300 people. But I'm looking forward to going there and seeing who comes, and we'll talk about these things. And then I'll go to this meeting, this week-long meeting of practitioners in the Food Service Alliance and see what their accomplishments have been in bringing awareness into this monolithic structure that has to do with one of the most important things in our lives: food, water, air. These are the basics. So I am very grateful to the people who are invited me. If you want to learn more, they have a website, COFSA, C-O, Conscious Food System Alliance, dot probably UN or something like that.
I'll get the link and I'll put it to the
It's
the
a
show
UN.
notes
It's a UNDP, UN Development Program.
Inspired soul living beings, what are you taking away from today's conversation with Gary? He's incredibly rich, this new human that's emerging, extrasensory perceptions, authentic power, how to navigate the negativity in the world, touch wood, that we're currently seeing. I mean, what is your biggest takeaway from today's conversation? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thank you so much in advance. You mentioned earlier a couple of courses, but there's something about the emotional awareness course. Can we speak to Linda's contribution to the emotional awareness course? Because I put a link to that in the show notes below as well.
Oh, Linda's contribution is everything. I was the one that first met our non-physical teacher named Genesis. And so I put everything that Genesis taught me into a book. For 2 years, I learned from Genesis, and I wrote the book. It's not my book. The content belongs to Genesis. The book was called The Seed of the Soul. And now 6 million people have read it. Then I met Linda, and I discovered that she has capabilities that I don't have. I can write. I can clothe energy in concept. I like language. But once Linda and I were talking, and for 27 years we were together, and I never experienced love like that. It was so easy, so complete, so fulfilling. I had no doubt that she loved me, and she had no doubt about that for me. And it was wonderful. And she's playful and connected. Once we were talking, and she was talking like a valley girl in Los Angeles, she'd say, it's like, and then you can, but actually it's, and you go stringing words together that don't connect to anything. And I pointed that out to her, and she looked at me and she said, "Beloved, language is my second language." So now you know a lot about Linda and her big heart. And she is the one who interprets all of this in a way. When I explain things at events, it's good, but I communicate understanding. She communicates connection. That's why we're such a good team. But I'm getting to know a little bit about what Linda can do.
Oh, that's Language is my second language. That's good. That's
You can quote her, and her name is Linda Ann Francis, or it
yeah.
was.
Well, I find myself quoting you actually quite a bit when I reference just your connection to Linda, and I'll share it here again, which is I'll never forget. We did an episode a couple of episodes ago, and um, yeah, just for you that it wasn't just that you got to love Linda; it was how much you were in love with loving Linda. Totally, the
Yes,
way you articulated that, just yeah,
you have articulated it exactly. I discovered that. I never loved anyone before. So I imagined I loved her, but what really surprised me was I loved loving Linda. I didn't know that such an experience could exist. It does. Sure feels good. It's amazing. I didn't mean to be flippant. It's amazing.
yeah. I think that brings me full circle to just the time that we're in, and I think there was one last little thread that I wanted to pull out, which was just the importance of connection and community at this time, Gary, as we're going through. Half of us are there, half of us are getting there, lovingly, no judgment. Um, the importance of connection. And I know following your podcast that you seem to incredibly well just sort of guide connection and meaning together, almost as if they're the same thread. Um, yeah, I just wonder about the import of community at a time like this.
Community is like a coin. Every coin has two sides. People think that communities are held together by commonality. They're white people, black people, Chinese culture, French food, intellectuals, even professionals. Dentists have their own communities. But the other side of the coin is the reality that communities are held together by fear of what is different. So if you want to learn from your community about what you fear, look at those people who are not in your community and ask yourself why they're not. Every community is held together by fear. So there's a lot of talk about community, tribe. These are all exclusive domains. Exclusive means you're in it, but the other people aren't. It can be a clan, it can be a tribe, and it's a native culture. It can be. There's only one community that includes everything, and that's the community of life with a capital L. That's the community of the universal human.
Mm, I love that. Gary, I always struggle to thank you. And it's not that I'm not grateful, it's just how do I convey the extent of my gratitude thank you so much for coming, sharing yourself so abundantly here with us today. Each and every time it is beyond affirming, it's incredibly illuminating, and significantly enriching. And I've said this to you before, and I'll say it again. It's the centering piece is huge for me. Every time I connect to yourself and your podcast, which I will put a link to the show notes, in the show notes below as well. Just it's always so incredibly centering through everything, even some of the topics we discussed today. Like what's going on globally, and then learning to love. Like my goodness, it's just incredibly centering. So thank you so much for the gifts you continue to share with us all, your time, your energy, your abundance. And I mean, I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you for your time and energy here today, but also thank you so much for you. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Amrit. It's always a joy to be with you and through you to speak with this larger family. And I'm grateful for it.
Inspired soul lumens beings, you've made it through to the end of another really incredible episode. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. Gary is always such a gift to have on the podcast. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please do remember to give it a thumbs up and a like. You've watched it all the way through to the end. So please do share it around with your friends. Give it a thumbs up and a like and just share. It really helps. Let the internet, the interwebs know that conversations like this around spirituality and positivity and wisdom are important for the world. So thank you so much for your support. And, of course, thank you to all of you that are subscribed to the podcast. Touchwood, everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to this channel. None of this would be possible without your co-creative support, so thank you so much. And at the time of this recording, actually only 20% of you that regularly watch this episode 4, 5, 6, 10 times are actually subscribed. So many of you think you are subscribed, but you're not actually. So take a look. There's a button below, subscribe button. As I'm saying the word subscribe, it's lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, join the community, join the movement, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for your support. And talking about community, don't forget we have the Inspired Evolution Community Circle. Content like this is inspiring you and it's inspiring others all around the planet together, and we can actually unite and come together. It's a really incredible space, even if I can say so myself. inspiredevolution.com/circle. You can join the community. We meditate together, community sharings, we discuss things, we breathe together, Reiki. There's a lot of cool stuff going on the inside of the circle, so you might want to just check it out. Come in and say good day. We'd love to connect with you really deeply, really richly. It's live, it's interactive. There's lots of cool stuff happening in there, so come check us out. inspiredevolution.com/circle. Again, I'll put a link to that in the description below. And on screen now, to continue your inspirations flowing onwards, upwards, and inwards, another episode of the Inspired Evolution designed perfectly for you. So go on, take your pick and make your click. I will see you in the next one. I'll see you there.